I am Nick James, and we are at Solihull's very first Bookfest. It's a bustling metropolis here where there's tons going on, and we've got some interviews for you today. A bit later on, we've got the very, very famous Nick Sharratt. He spoke to Ruth yesterday. We're going to play you that interview. I've also got, in just a moment, Abie Longstaff. She's coming to chat to me about her books and some of the workshops she's going to be doing. And not only that, if we're lucky, we'll be able to speak to a guy called Jonny Duddle, all about the Harry Potter stuff he's going to be doing at Solihull's very first Bookfest. And in front of me, standing, we have the star author, Abie Longstaff. How are you today, Abie?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you, on this lovely sunny day.
It's beautiful, actually. It's definitely looking like spring. And you're looking very springy yourself. You've got some butterflies in your hair, flowers in your hair. Is this your personal style?
Oh, not quite.
Yeah?
This is what I do when I go and see children.
Okay.
I have a skirt that has fairy tale hairdresser on and lots of different fairy tale characters for them to kind of spot and look at. I've got loads of butterflies in my hair because my books are about the best hairdresser in the land who lives in fairy tale land.
Yes.
She does the big bad wolf's whiskers and Father Christmas's beard.
That's so cool.
It's really fun. It's kind of like a sort of Shrek with hair.
Yeah.
So it's like mixed up fairy tales,
Yeah.
and they've all got jobs. Like the tooth fairy is the dentist,
Yeah.
and the big bad wolf is the optician because he's all the better to see you with. And so they're all kind of fun characters. The three little pigs have a building company. So there's lots to spot in the book,
Yeah.
lots of fairy tale characters to find.
So what sort of inspired you to do that? I mean, did you have a dream one day and that was it? Or have you just sort of been working on that plan organically over time? What was your inspiration?
Well, I have quite a mad family. I'm one of 6 children. I've got 5 younger sisters, and we were always playing loads of games when we were little, and one of the games we loved playing was hairdressers. And I quite like writing books about children who have jobs. I think jobs are something children connect with quite a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of them play shops, or they play doctors or vets, or some kind of like job-based role. And
It's the way they learn about life, isn't it?
Yeah, they pretend to be grown-ups.
Yeah.
And that's brilliant. And so a hairdresser was one of the things I used to play. And then I was daydreaming one day and I thought, oh, I wonder where Rapunzel has her hair cut. And that's how I started writing about a fairy tale hairdresser.
That's amazing. So your books are for kids.
Yes.
And what sort of age range are we looking at?
I write for about age 2 to 11.
Are they the
So
same titles or are
primary
they
school.
different titles? Or tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, Fairy Tale Hairdresser is a long-running series of about 12 different books. And I also write a series called The Trapdoor Mysteries, which is about a girl in a big mansion, and she's sort of solving puzzles and codes, and she works out that all the kind of fireplaces have got tricks to them, and if you can undo it, you can get through the fireplace and find a new part of the mansion. And it's sort of a mixture of mysteries, and there's a bit of kind of fun science, like she makes gecko feet and spider web to catch burglars and things. So it's kind of sciencey, puzzles and mysteries. And they're good fun. They're for about age 7 to 9.
So it really sets the imagination of children alive, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think, again, it's like empowering children. I mean, she's a young girl, but she's making all this stuff and solving all these mysteries and solving all these problems and things.
Yeah.
And I think children like that feeling that they can be in control, they can be the ones in charge of their life.
Yeah. So have you always been writing? Or have you... What's your background? How did you come into this?
I did law originally.
Okay.
I was a lawyer. I was a barrister for a while.
It's quite a departure from being
I
a children's author.
I know. I mean, I always loved books. As a child, I read obsessively. And of course, there's so much research about the connection between reading and academic attainment. So the best thing we can do is get our kids reading, particularly for fun.
Yeah.
So I was one of those kids that read for pleasure. It was my joy, reading. And I used to sneakily turn the light back on after my parents had turned it off just to read one more chapter.
Yeah.
And of course, I was quite good at school because of all the reading I'd done. So I kind of drifted into a more academic career. And then when I had my own children, I kind of reconnected with books. I was reading picture books with them, and I thought, you know what, I really love to write something. And I started writing, and for a while I was doing both jobs, so a few days a week in law and a few days a week writing, and then it kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah.
And I'm now 43 books in, and I do a lot of events, and that takes up a lot of my time, so I wouldn't have time for both jobs anymore.
So when did you start? I mean, 43 books sounds a lot. Is that been over a few years or was it quite a short period of time?
About 10 years I've been writing.
Okay.
And a lot of my books are picture books. Some of them are for older children, and some are kind of school readers, the kind of thing you would take in your book bag and read at home.
Yeah.
And I think school readers are really important because in an age when we're losing libraries, we're losing librarians, 1 in 8 children don't have a book at home. And it's incredibly sad that these kids are missing out on the joy and the usefulness in terms of academic attainment of books. And so for some of these kids, the school reader is the only book that they might get their hands on. So for me, it's something I'm really passionate about, that we really need to provide good quality books for kids that are fun. We want kids reading because they love it. We don't want kids thinking, I must read. We want them to pick up a book because they really want to
All
read.
too often it appears like a chore to the children, doesn't
Right.
it? And so that's what your books are all about. Do you illustrate the books as well, or have you got someone you've teamed up with to do the illustrations?
The illustrations for Fairy Tale Hairdresser are by Lauren Beard. She's fantastic, really, really great, kind of interesting style. And together we've got the same sort of sense of humour. And so we're always putting like funny things in the background for parents to spot.
Yeah.
For Trapdoor Mysteries, it's done by James Brown, who's a teacher as well. And so his illustrations are great. And I really like illustrated books for older children as well. I think it's nice that kids still can look at pictures and things when they're a bit older. And of course, because there's lots of codes and puzzles, there's a lot to work out in the illustration. So poor James, I've given him difficult tasks from time to time, as I have to have maps and mazes and all kinds of puzzles in there.
Well, it also helps them contextualise what's going on. It helps them infer what's going on.
That's right.
And so it brings it more to life for the children. What are you doing here at the Bookfest today? You just sort of doing some bookshop, selling your books, or are you doing some workshops or anything like that? What are you doing today?
I'm doing two events.
Okay.
I'm doing the Trapdoor Mysteries event at 12 o'clock, which is we're going to plot out a fantastic secret door. I'm going to ask the kids to think of a cool code. We're going to imagine what's behind it. We're going to come out with a whole sort of shape of a story. And then later on I'm doing Fairy Tale Hairdresser, and we're going to have story, and we're going to have a go at doing some doll's hair. And I'm also going to talk to them a lot about how I write, because I think it's quite important that children learn that authors, we're not magic. I don't just sit down and write my book just like that.
Yeah.
It takes me a lot of hard work, and I like to talk to them about how tough it is. And sometimes I want to stop because I'm stuck on a bit, and I'm a bit bored, and I have to sort of fire myself up again. And I think children need to hear that message so that when they're doing a piece of work and it's not right the first time, they know that that's normal. That's the same for me.
So roughly how long does it take from first origin, first idea, to get to sort of a finished product for a book for you? Is it months, weeks? How long has it taken?
It can take a year.
Right.
I'm in the middle of writing something that I started last year, and sometimes it's a bit like making bread. I know that's a funny thing to say, but sometimes it goes right and the dough is perfect and everything's great. And sometimes, no matter how much you work it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And you have to put it all aside and start again from scratch. And I think it's to do with a sort of magic of creativity, that sometimes it goes well and sometimes it doesn't.
So have you got projects that you put sort of on a shelf and thought, that's not kind of worked out, I might come back to that?
Yeah,
and
that's
so,
right.
maybe. I always said that I thought in my mind that an author's work always sort of came to this great conclusion, but actually it's a bit more hit and miss. You've got something on the back burner and sort of
I think
different
it would
projects.
be the same in other creative jobs, like being an artist. You'd have something that doesn't work sometimes. So I put things aside, but I often do come back to them. So maybe a few years later I'll open up that Word document and I'll think, you know what, now I can see why that didn't work. And there's something about having that distance from your work that makes you reassess it, and maybe you can rework it. And that's what I talk to kids about as well, that, it is quite normal for projects not to go perfect.
Thank you very much, Abie. How do we find out more about you if people are listening and they want to get some of your books or get in touch with you? How do we find you?
I've got a website, which is my name, abielongstaff.com.
Yeah.
Or you can find, I'm on YouTube as well. I've got lots of talks about how I write, and so you can click on there and have a look, and that's also under my name, Abie Longstaff. And then you'll find my books in most major shops.
Perfect. But the best thing, of course, is to come to Solihull Bookfest today and come and meet you in person.
Great.
That'd be great. Abie, you've been a star. Thank you very much for chatting to us on
Nice to meet
Solihull
you.
Radio.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Solihull Radio.
If you are listening to the Agents of Influence podcast with all our authors today, you'll be aware, and if you're a fan of the podcast, that you could be winning a prize. You'll need a special code number to put with episodes 2 and 3. With this number now, which is number 4, and if you want to win that prize, you've got to listen to the number in episode 2, episode 3, and now with the code number in episode 4, which is 4. Put all the numbers together, get in touch, send us an email on studio@solihullradio.com with the combination of numbers, or on Facebook, and we'll draw the winner and you can choose one of the prizes of the competition. And in front of me I have Jonny Duddle. And how are you today, Jonny? You alright?
I'm fine, thank you. Now I've found it.
Yeah. Were you a bit lost?
I went the very long way. I was told it was 5 minutes walk, and went a very long way with my suitcase and my pirate outfit.
See, were you wearing your pirate outfit?
I wasn't wearing my pirate outfit, not even, no, it was a bit windy for the hat.
So that's a bit of a link. Well, tell us about yourself and what you write and do.
I'm a writer and illustrator, so I write and illustrate my own books, and I illustrate other people's books. So I've done a series of pirate books, a dinosaur book and a space book, and I've also done the Harry Potter covers amongst other book covers. I do lots of book covers too.
That's seriously cool. How did you get to start writing really cool books about dinosaurs and pirates and that sort of thing?
I wanted to. I went to university in the early 90s and finished before the internet was around,
right,
and didn't know how to get a job. So I took a massive gap between finishing university and actually writing my first book. I was 39 when my first book came out,
right,
whereas I'd wanted to do it since I was at primary school.
Yeah.
But I worked in computer games. I worked as a designer for movies. I worked on designed the characters on the Arm & Pirate movie.
Oh, right, okay.
And just had a series of jobs until I eventually got an agent, and they got me my first book deal in about 2009, and called The Pirate Cruncher.
So let's just focus in on your pirate books first of all. Is it the same character reoccurring as sort of the adventures of one individual, or are they different things about different pirate characters?
My first book was was a one-off. It was called The Pirate Cruncher, about a sea monster.
Yeah.
And it was called The Pirate Cruncher because it's not got a very happy ending for pirates, which I don't want to spoil. But I was asked to write a sequel because it sold quite well.
Ooh,
and I
right.
said I can't really write a sequel because the ending's not very good for the pirates.
So did you have like a Dirty Den return or something like that?
Well, I ended up we were just about to move house. So I grew up in Wales, and I was living in the Peak District in Buxton, and we were trying to move back to Wales. And so I wrote a book about a pirate family moving onto a street and all the neighbours gossiping and not really liking them because they were pirates.
Yeah.
And that was kind of based on me and my family moving back to Wales. My daughter and my wife were worried about it, so so I thought it was a good inspiration for a story. And then so I've done 2 picture books about that family, the Jolly Rogers, and 3 chapters. Just working on my 4th chapter book about the family too.
Yeah. So a lot of your inspiration comes from just everyday life, I presume.
Yes. Well, I lived on when I finished university, not being able to get a job, I ended up working on a pirate ship for a year. It was a ship they built for a film about Columbus, and they sailed it to Costa Rica, sailed it back to Cornwall. And then we sailed all around the coast of Britain, and we dressed up in stuff, and we did some pirate films. And my dad was a bit cross because he'd helped me get to university and said it's not a proper job.
Yeah.
And then I did all these other jobs. I was an art teacher, and I worked in computer games, worked in the movies. And then when I came back to books, I used that as a kind of inspiration for the ship in the story, and the family live on that ship pretty much that I lived on.
So you're here, you've made it to Solihull.
Yep.
Pirate gear in hand. That gives us a clue about some of the things you might be doing while you're here in Solihull. What are you going to do today?
So this morning I'm doing a pirate event, so I will be reading 1 or maybe 2 of my books and drawing pirates. I normally get the children to sort of suggest what kind of pirate I'm going to draw.
Yeah.
And then this afternoon I'm doing a Harry Potter drawing workshop. Well, a drawing event. I think it's in the theatre, so I don't think it'll be. I think there's 300 people. So
roughly what sort of time do you think they're going to be?
I think my pirate event's 11:30 and my Harry Potter event's at 3.
You need it to be at 3, don't you?
Because I've got to train home.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, going back to Wales.
Yeah, exactly. So what do you prefer? Do you prefer writing or illustrating?
I like doing both, really. Now, because I've been doing it for quite a long time, I kind of trying to just do my own books. I did the Harry Potter cover. I tried to turn the Harry Potter covers down, and my agent got cross with me.
Right.
Because I'm trying to just rely on doing my own books because I like writing and illustrating at the same time. I've never illustrated someone else's picture book, the younger age group books, because I like them to evolve at the same time. So I draw a bit, write a bit, draw a bit, write a bit, and the whole thing's sort of emerging in my head as I go along. I can't imagine writing all of it and then drawing all of it, or vice versa.
Yeah.
I like them to evolve together.
I suppose also that it's a very different mindset when you've got your own organic product as opposed to trying to step into an author's mind to draw out those characters and illustrate them.
Well, when I worked in games, I was a concept artist, so I designed characters, and the same when I worked for Aardman on the Pirates movie, I was designing the pirates and characters in that. And as a concept artist, that's kind of your job, is to visualise what everyone's thinking. Because if you describe a pirate with a wooden leg, a hat and a parrot, everyone in their head will think of a different pirate with a hat and a parrot. So it's not until you draw it that everyone can look at it and go, oh no, that's not the right pirate with a hat and a parrot. And you can discuss it and change it. And my ideas and my books evolve through my sketchbooks. I have sketchbooks which I carry everywhere, and they kind of evolve over probably months or years. So they might not take very long to actually write it, the story, they often take a long time to colour in. It takes me about 6 months because it takes me about a week per illustration, and there's about 20 odd illustrations.
Wow, that's a lot of colouring in.
Yeah, but they evolve over time. So yeah, the colouring in, just with picture books in particular, the colouring in takes a lot longer than the writing for me. So.
I bet it does. So tell me, how do we get in touch with you? How do we find out more about you? That sort of thing.
I've just had 2 months off social media completely, actually. Trying to concentrate and write. I've written a Viking book and another pirate chapter book.
Okay.
But I do have a Twitter page and I have a Facebook page, and there's also a website at johnnyduddle.com, which my publisher has a book, because all my books so far have been through one publisher, Templar, and they have a page there with all my books on and activities and things to print off. Because
the best thing, of course, is for everyone to come down to Solihull today and catch you in action, yes, live and in the flesh.
Yes.
Jonny, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And good luck today. Thank you. Well, wasn't that just fantastic? It's a lovely chap. Solihull Radio. You're joining us here in the core in Solihull for the very first Solihull Bookfest. What a wonderful occasion it is. We've had a chat to Jonny Duddle just then, who's an illustrator and author, and just before that we had a little chat to Abie Longstaff, and who was telling us about her books. They're all here, and at the moment we've got Nick Sharratt is doing a workshop which is due to finish at 11 o'clock, with also a book signing as well, I believe, coming up. But yesterday our very own Ruth Green had a little chat to Nick Sharratt, and we recorded that. We're going to play that.
Right, good morning. I am with the amazing author and illustrator Nick Sharratt. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning.
How are you this morning? Welcome, Solihull.
Thank you very much. I'm great, thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Now, I'm sure every author around the country always looks forward to World Book Week because it is just so busy and it gives you a fantastic forum to talk about what you do. What have you been up to?
Well, it's an amazing week, isn't it? I've just been delighted to see how schools all over the country have been getting involved in really creative ways. And you know what? I've been looking at photographs of children dressed up as my characters from the top of the country to the bottom, and it's just a lovely thing for us authors and illustrators to have this day of celebrating books and to be in touch with schools all around the country.
It kind of makes you more touchable, doesn't it? It just kind of, it makes people realise that you're real, that these
absolutely.
characters are created by real people.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things is that when I was at school, we never had an author visit or an illustrator come into the school, and I think it would have been, in my case, it would have been fairly life-changing because it would have actually made it, as you say, real to me. I never even thought you could write to an illustrator.
Let alone tweet
they lived
one.
on another planet. So.
My son dressed up as a Viking at yesterday, and we ended up texting the author and got a response back, and my son was just over the moon.
I can imagine. Yes,
it's such a love. And that's the power of social media, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's more than anything, it's a celebration of reading and books. So the dressing up is lovely, but to actually celebrate reading books together and to kind of build on that is what it's all about.
So, I mean, your career is just incredible. It's an absolute inspiration for anyone wanting to get into illustration or book writing. 250 books you've illustrated, and 40 books you've actually written. And you've worked with some amazing people: Julia Donaldson, Jeremy Strong, the lovely Michael Rosen, who's a friend of Solihull Radio, and also Bourneville Bookfest, and Dame Jacqueline Wilson. So how did it start for you?
Well, it all began back at school, actually. It's when I decided I was going to be an artist one day for my living. So I did lots and lots of art at school, then I went to art college, and then I went out with my folio, and gradually I got work in the wonderful world of children's books. And one thing led to another. And yes, like you say, I have a lovely variety of work. It's terrific doing my own books, but it's also lovely working with such a wonderful range of authors. and working for different ages as well. So one day I might be doing a toddler book for Julia, and the next a book for young teens written by Jacqueline. So it's very diverse, and it's very stimulating.
So who's your favourite character to illustrate, do you think?
If it's by somebody else, I think it has to be Tracy Beaker, who's the first character I ever illustrated for Jacqueline, and who's become a bit of a superstar.
It's the hair. It's the hair.
Very enjoyable to illustrate. Yes, the hair is great. And when I draw her with children, the minute they start doing the curls, it turns into Tracy Beaker. If it's one of my own characters, I think I'm quite fond of Timothy Pope and Mr. Pope, who are father and son, who are in my Shark in the Pot book.
I know it well. It's one that I read to my son.
And
what top tips? What is the thing that makes a character stand out from the next character, do you think?
That's a hard question there. I think, well, as an illustrator, I think you're looking for some physical feature that makes them instantly recognisable, like with Tracy Beaker, her curly hair, and like with Mr. Pope. One reason I enjoy drawing him is he's got a rather fantastic Elvis quiff. It's funny that actually, it sounds silly, but hair is a really, really good way to get across a character's personality. So I spend a lot of time thinking about hairstyles for all my characters.
If you were a character, what hair would you have?
I'd like, I fluctuate between having hair like Tracy Beaker or Mr. Pope's, actually. They're my two favourites.
Oh, I love it. So I saw you at Bourneville Bookfest last year. I took my children that were then 4 and 7 along to see you. In a tent. It was a really cold day, if I remember rightly, and it was absolutely packed. And what amazed me is that you had an audience of incredibly young children, and they were hooked. They were absolutely hooked. I mean, you're like a teacher's dream. How do you keep 200 children happy, focused, and entertained for an hour? Because your shows are an hour. What's the trick?
I think it's probably because I've never really grown up myself. So I think I might be on the same wavelength as my young audience. I don't know. I just, very, very lucky. My sense of humour and the things that I like to write stories about and to illustrate seem to be very much things that appeal to children, which is just terrific. I don't consciously think about my readers when I'm doing books. I do them to sort of please myself. So, like I say, I think I have quite a lot of child in me still. But I think it's festivals like this are just so wonderful because everybody's coming because they love reading and they love books, and there's just a sense of excitement and a lovely feeling in the room. And as somebody who performs at events, and isn't, a lot of us authors and illustrators are not natural performers, but when you come into a room where there's lovely, welcoming feeling you experience, it just makes you it gives you a real high, and the sessions go really well.
I remember the queues afterwards for children kind of holding their books, desperate to get a picture or an autograph or just to say hello. It was such a powerful thing. Yes,
no, it's a wonderful thing that there are these kind of events for children to experience now.
So how did you get to come to Bourneville Bookfest? What happened? What made you? And what is so unique about this festival for kids that love stories?
Well, I first came 2 or 3 years ago as a participant in the festival, and I just thought it was terrific. I really the organisers of the festival are so dedicated, and they put together just the most brilliant programme with so much enthusiasm and for a new festival as well, incredible sort of professionalism, if I may say so. And the results were wonderful. There were, busy, large audiences for all the events and lots of excitement and things going on. And I just thought, this is a really great festival. So I came back for a second year and was absolutely delighted to be asked to be patron of the festival to help promote it and to give advice for future festivals. And I jumped at the chance.
And you drew the covers this year, didn't you? The programmes, which have got lovely little aliens all over them.
I did, yes. That's to tie in with one of the events I'm doing today, You Choosing Space event. So, yes, aliens are pretty much in my mind at the moment.
So you're going to be throughout the festival today in Solihull at the core. We have two events, You Choosing Space at 10 a.m. and Nice Work for the Cats and the King. Now, I was talking to some mums about You Choosing Space, and they felt it was an incredible book for children just starting out.
Yes, it's one of a series of books. The You Choose books, there are 3 now, and I created them with the writer Pippa Goodhart. And we have just been blown away by the response to these books. I don't think we realise in how many ways they can be used and on how many levels children can respond to them. I think if you don't know the books, they're kind of like a catalogue book with lots and lots of pictures, things to choose on every page, and not so many words. So when you look at the book, if you're sharing it with somebody else, you absolutely have to have a conversation. It's a book that just draws you in, and it's all about communication and sharing something. And I think that can be used in so many ways. It's just extraordinary, the response that we've had to it. So we're absolutely delighted, and the You Choose in Space event is going to be very interactive. I shall be getting the audiences to make some choices and perhaps do some drawing with me as well.
Oh, fabulous.
Up on stage and help me with my drawing.
Fantastic. That sounds amazing. And I believe you're at Bourneville Bookfest as well next week. So what are you up to there? I think you've got a very special guest with you next week, haven't you?
Yes. I'm coming up with Dame Jacqueline Wilson. We're coming up together, which will be a real treat because we don't often get the chance to do things together. We're so busy with our own things. So this will be a lovely opportunity. So we're doing a very big schools event in the centre of Birmingham. And then we're doing a special event at the Bourneville Festival too. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Wow, that sounds absolutely amazing. You are now patron to Bourneville Bookfest. I mean, I should just explain that Bourneville Bookfest is so popular now in the Midlands that there are a further 3 festivals, Solihull being one of them. Sutton Coldfield was the first festival last weekend. Then you've got Solihull this weekend, and next weekend Bourneville Bookfest kicks off, and also Barnt Green Bookfest, which is testament really to the organisers and what this festival has turned into. So, you can see Nick be part of his shows. They are very, very interactive. Take it from a mum that knows. And you're just a thoroughly nice guy. So I recommend that everybody just comes and says hello, gets a selfie with you, prepared to be selfied like mad. And it's going to be a great event. You get
bonus points if you, I don't know if there'll be time, but if you come, I'm going to be wearing a bit of lame. I'm wearing a silver lame shirt for my first event and a gold lame shirt for the second event.
Nice.
So if you want to wear something sparkly, come along.
I think you're going to be having a bit of a Duddle off, aren't you? Because Johnny's got his pirate gear on. You're going to be wearing kind of bright colours. There's going to be an eclectic mix of wear at the festival. Well, look. Thank you so much for your time coming to talk to us. Have an amazing festival.
Thanks.
And all the best. And come on the show whenever you fancy. You're officially a Solihull radio friend now. But thanks for your time, Nick.
Solihull Radio.
And it's just about time to say goodbye, actually. Thank you very much for clicking in and joining us this morning. And it's getting busier and busier and busier. Come down and check out the books. I'll catch you next week with another range of interviews of inspiring people. Catch you later. Bye for now.